Jimmy McAllister found the net. Goal for Wednesday.
Terrific goal! Nice Taylor!
Chris Waddle, is he going to have a crack?
Oh, he does, and it's goal! Still Glenn Wheeler! Hayden Flint works the
Is there time for a winner?
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. This is the preview show where we speak to the opposition to get insight into what we're to expect when the two sides meet. This weekend we're back at home once again. This time it's the turn of Preston to come and take the points off of us. And with us to tell exactly how they're going to do that is Oliver from the Butterpie podcast. Ollie, great to have you on, pal. How's things? All good?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, James. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and it's all good. You've been on a few times, so why not get you back on again? Ollie, I'll go through the kind of previous meetings that we've had. I'll not go through all of them. I'll just go through the most recent ones. The ones at Hillsborough, anyway. Because obviously that makes sense. This game is at Hillsborough this weekend. One apiece. It ended last season. Emil Rees with your goal before Michael Smith. Obviously now at Preston. More on that in a second. Got the equaliser. You beat us back in 2023, just the season prior. Liam Lindsay with the goal in a game that when I was writing this, I had absolutely no recollection of. But then I remembered I wasn't there because I was on holiday. I think it was a free kick that you had, and it was a header, I think, from Liam Lindsay. I actually remember that game because it was the game that Momo Diaby played. He had an absolute worldie. He's played 65 minutes, his first 65 minutes for the club, got injured, and then we never ever saw him again. But yeah, can you remember that game?
I can remember the goal. As you say, it was a free kick. I think it was a bit of a pump into the box. We had our young lad Kean Best who delivered it from about 40 yards out, and it seemed that every Wednesday player decided to mark everyone but the main man who's going to head it, and Lindsay got on the end of it. And I think it was just a 1-0 Dreer fest where North End just show up and just stick everyone behind the ball after that.
Yeah, I mean, for our last win against you at Hillsborough, you have to go back to the game before that, but that is in 2021, 30th of January to be precise. Liam Palmer with a goal on the stroke of half-time in a 1-0 win. A rare goal for him at that time. I think I want to say that was only his second goal for the club, but about 7 years gap in between them, or something ridiculous. He's one of only two players still at the club that started that game for us. You can add the bench into that as well, Bannon being the other one. How many of the starting 11 back in 2021, so we're talking the 2020-21 season, do you think are still at Preston? Then I'm going to test you. I'm not going to read them out because I'll be cheating. How many do you think are still at Preston from that day?
I think my Wi-Fi's just cut out. 1 second.
You still hear me? I can still hear you. Is this you cheating and just actually checking the internet and just finding out whether how many players?
Honestly, it just keeps up. 1 second. Let me sort this. My Wi-Fi's disconnected. Genuinely. I'm not cheating.
This is the point. I'm going to leave this bit in because I think it's quite funny that now, especially if you give me all four players that are still here, I'm just going to call bullshit. Go on then.
Right. So all four players that are still at Sheffield Wednesday.
No, sorry. To be fair, I've just given the game away because there's four players that are still at Preston North End from that day when we beat you back in the 2020-21 season. Can you name who they are?
Ooh.
No, so I'm talking. They played for Preston and they're still at Preston now.
Yeah, Jordan Story.
Oh no, he's not one of them.
All right. 2021. So they played in that game
for Preston, yeah, and they're still at Preston now, yeah. 4 years later.
Was Daniel Everson one?
He was, yeah. Daniel Everson was one.
Yeah, he was on loan at the time. Oh my God, they played that game. Ben Whiteman.
Ben Whiteman is another. Can you get the other two?
Ali McCann?
No, I'll put you out of your misery. Andrew Hughes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Brad Potts. So yeah, 4 of your. I mean, I was looking and thinking we've hardly got any players still in that squad, and I looked at yours and you'd got 4. So I was like, yeah, clearly not that impressive. But
no. Well, I mean, I say the names that don't pull up a lot of trees, and I don't understand how many of them still have a championship contract. But I'm just
look,
trying to think of
I didn't look too far into it. I know Daniel Everson does start for you, and I think Ben Whiteman has been playing quite a bit this season as well.
Yeah,
Is it Brad? Yeah,
and Andrew Hughes has been superb, but Brad Potts has just decided just to vanish out of thin air.
there we go. Let's touch on last season then, Ollie, if we can. Not a great season at all.
No.
10 wins in total. Finished the season in, I'll be honest, dismal form. 1 win in 15, 4 defeats in your last 5 to end the season, and finished just 1 point above the drop. What was it like from your perspective? Because you were never in the bottom 3 at all, but you came precariously close to it, come the end.
Funnily enough, it's one of those that North End naturally do each season, where we just decide to go on the beach from a certain period onwards. But it was after the game where we were in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup and got beat off Villa around February time. I think we were around about 12th, and we're thinking, it's going to be the same old season here. And the players just decided just to take it off. We got a couple more injuries, lost main players in the park, and then you just get on a run. And rut, and obviously now North End this season, I know you can see with the form, especially at home, it's really picked up, and that's because fans aren't on the players' backs as much. They're very much confidence players, and confidence was shot. We were going 1-0 down, and you're thinking, there's no way we're going to come back from it. There's no plan B, and it was a real struggle all the way to the end. Bristol City, I actually thought we were going to go down. We were that bad, a couple of games before we played against Plymouth at home, and we got absolutely slapped. And it's like, is this the way we're going to go out? You're on from 12th, pretty much safe, and then having 1 win in 15, which, it's one of those things that I never really want to see North End do again. I know North End will probably just throw it away from April onwards because that's naturally what we do anyway. But hopefully we're away from the drop. I think that's why quite a lot of people you see with predictions, they see North End just escaping relegation last season. A couple of injuries, we've had a complete change of the squad, and now here we are in 6th place somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, but we might as well talk about it now in terms of expectations and things, because this is your 11th season in the Championship. The mid-table maestros, other than last season, of course.
Yep.
I think you've never finished in the top 6 in the playoffs, as far as I'm aware. Certainly not in this kind of run of 11 seasons anyway. I mean, the lowest before last season was only 14th as well, so you're literally just in that middle bit. Is there an expectation as a club for you to kind of kick on a little bit now and perhaps take that to the next level?
I think there's always an expectation to try and punch above our weight at least one time. The last chance was under Alex Neil, the season before. I think I'm going to say 2018-19. We were top of the league come November time, and we really needed to kick on and back, the manager in the summer. North End don't have a lot of money. We never do. We're always punching above our weight. Our wage gap is minimal. We've had a big summer. We spent 1 million and brought in 9 players. Obviously, Paul Valentin and Michael Smith, who we'll touch upon. So there's always expectation to keep on moving. I think under Heckingbottom and every manager that comes into North End, that they naturally get a long period of time. We don't go around sacking many managers. And it's always a process of, we're going to have to bring in players. We're going to have to try and sell them on and then generate funds from that. And it feels like now, especially with the acquisition of Thierry Small, who I thought was a brilliant signing, even on a free, you've got a young, hungry player, especially there. I would have said I was my age before he started doing things that obviously isn't great. We've got sellable assets, and we haven't really had that for many seasons. So it's going to be a one of those that we kick on in a few seasons after, we've sold those players and you properly reinvest in your squad. And I mean, in terms of that, spend some actual money, because North End's maximum, we've spent 2 million on the player and that's it. We need to start, joining the rest of the herd and, bringing our players up to standard, really, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, we've had our ownership problems. Obviously, we are in the midst of administration at the moment. Yeah. What's from a Preston's perspective, like your perspective of your owners? I mean, I'm not abreast of what your owners are like or what you think of them and things like that. But what's are people happy with them at the moment? I mean, I've not found any football fan that is like delirious about their owners. So if there are, there's not many. But what are you like with them?
I mean, realistically. They're very safe as owners. I think you'll probably struggle to find many people that will actively lose £12 million a year from a football club. And if you do so, you've got to really shake the hand and say, thanks a lot for doing so. I think strategically they're not the greatest. They kind of stick to the same thing. There's not really, an idea to try and branch out and do something different. We're kind of just waiting on a miracle, so to speak. Like as I've mentioned, you try to get that player, selling that player and then reinvesting from that. We've not really had a sale since 2019 when Callum Robinson went to Sheffield United. So yeah, I mean, I can't really complain. I don't think any North End fan can complain about the way that the owners do fund the club. We just feel it's probably about time for some fresh ideas at the top. And I know naturally North End have been up for sale for 3.5 years, and the club have now started the process of like actively stepping down the chairman and trying to speed up the process for someone new to come in. So yeah, we've got a very safe ownership. We'll never go out of business under the current ownership, as quite frankly, Peter Ridsdale loves to say, we pay the tax man. So, yeah, we're here and amongst it. We're not gonna pull up too many trees, but I think it is time for a set of fresh ideas, because we're not really going to progress otherwise.
Yeah, let's talk about the manager then. Heckingbottom came in August last season, so he didn't have a pre-season, but he had the vast majority of the season, with him. I mean, obviously last season was tricky, but he seems to have got a bit of a tune out of him at the moment. What's your thoughts on him as a manager?
Yeah, brilliant. He's a brilliant manager. The same with Stuart McCall as well, who probably doesn't get as much plaudits as he probably should.
How many times have you watched that video of him falling off the car in his Bradford City days, by the way?
A couple of times, especially when we're winning, or you just see him getting a bit aggressive down the touchline. He just remembers him just doing a backflip roll off the back of the car. I think one way to say it is they just kind of get Preston North End. We're not flashy. We're not trying to play out from the back. We're not trying to do this, try to do that. We've got players, and if you can play to the players' strengths, then you'll get a good, championship side out of us. So instead of trying to play kind of the way that Lowe tried to play with us, etc., he's brought in players with pace, who are strong, who are athletic, and allowed them to try and use their strengths as much as possible. To be fair, he's quite tactical as well. We do have a formation that, we do have the players to be able to move around that could transition. We play free at the back, but we've got O'Delafire who can play right back from right centre back or right wing back. We've got Andrew Hughes who can play left back or left centre back. So it's very easy to be able to move between, a 4 at the back, a 3 at the back, and even a 5 at the back. So it's good. And then obviously we've got some great players that he's brought in on loan, because North End naturally don't bring in the players that they want. Daniel Jefferson had an awful time at Watford last season, and you probably wouldn't touch him with a barge pole if you're ever any other Championship club. But Heckingbottom knows how the best to get out of these players. He worked on Jefferson before. he knows how to get the best out of the players, and you're starting to see that with a lot of others as well as Lewis Dobbin, Alfie Devine, etc.
You've touched on some of the formations there. Is Heckingbottom quite rigid in terms of how he sets up, or is he quite happy to change things? I'm guessing we were saying you play a 3, a 4, or a 5. It sounds like he's quite fluid, and it's not just the same thing every single week.
Yeah. So in terms of it, we'll always set up the same. In terms, we'll set up with a back 3 and wing backs, but obviously with that can chop and change in terms of how the game's going. If we're behind, it'll change to a flat 4 because you have the players to do so. And even if it means that you don't have to, make substitutions, you've got Thierry Small who can play as a wing back, but he can also, push up high and play as a right wing, so to speak. So he's very smart in how he's brought the players and the recruitment to be able to, just chop and change and move them around. So he's definitely not rigid, but I wouldn't say he's totally fluid in the way that he does, because we'll always set up the same. I'd be very shocked if we came to Wednesday and just set up from the direct with a flat 4. I'd fully expect us to start with a back 3 and then change it as the game goes on if needed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's the modern way now as well. When you talk about players, no longer do you have a player that can play just one position. If you can only play one position, I don't think you're getting very far in football in the modern day now. Anyway, let's talk about your recent form. Then it isn't great. I mean, when you look at the last 6 games, it doesn't sound too bad. 3 wins, 1 defeat, 2 draws. However, if you look at the last 3 games, it's 3 games without a win, 2 draws and 1 defeat. I mean, you had wins against our dear neighbours, which was great viewing, even if I do say so myself. You beat Southampton away and Swansea at home. The draw came against Millwall and Watford, which was the last game last time out, and then a defeat in your local derby, just like us, against Blackburn. What have those performances been like? Because they all seem very close games, all 1 goal in it. Obviously, some draws in there, barring the 2-0 win against Southampton. I suppose they could have all kind of gone either way, or were you dominant in most?
No, I mean, North End naturally always try and press forward and get an early goal, and once you get from that, that's properly us set up. But that worked with Watford. It obviously didn't work with Rovers because we were 1-0 down, but then scored 30 seconds afterwards. I know it's probably not to give anyone any plaudits, but I mean, realistically, we've lost a lot of players with injuries. Harrison Armstrong especially is by far the best North End player. He's been here 8 games and he's a level above, and he's been missing, unfortunately, for Wednesday fans. It sounds like he might be back.
Sure, we had that just yesterday. Femi Aziz has been out. He's their best player for Millwall. He come back, played 20 minutes and came off the bench and scored a goal for the winner. Yeah.
And then Ben Whiteman obviously was missing from the Watford game, and Alan McCann as well. He's broke his arm. So, you've got your main 3 midfielders there taken out, and you're having to play Jordan Thompson, who made his debut for us against Watford after being injured for 8 months, and Stefan Fordarson, who I like another player, Mad Frokjar, is someone who I regard highly, but they've progressed so much with not playing so much, and when they do play, they just don't seem to be kicking on. So not an offense style of play is where you have players that battle in the middle of the park. You win the first balls, you win the second balls, and you try to get it forward to those players that will make something with your Dobbins, your Devines, and once they do have the ball, they're able to go on and score. So losing out, the main players in our team has probably just broken the camel's back. Lewis Gibson as well. He's been out for quite some time. Obviously, Liam Lindsay's done well, but losing a lot of players is what's taken us aback. But we were very poor against Rovers, especially. It was a big game in the grand scheme of things, because obviously it's a local rivals, but. Yeah, we were just so poor. And it was unexpected because it's Friday night, you're under the lights at Deepdale, and you're expecting North End to really turn it on. But we just didn't. It was just one of those. I think Watford away at a point was a fair result. It was a good result, probably. I would have snapped your hand off going into that. They've got quite possibly the best player in the league, I would say, in Imran Loser. And then obviously Millwall as well. I think that's a good point for North End.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking as well. I mean, you've got one of the best defences in the league. You haven't conceded many goals at all. I think there's only a couple of teams that have actually conceded more than you. I think Stoke are one of them, and I want to say Coventry as well. I think are another. You've kept 5 clean sheets so far this season. It's not the most in the league, but is it almost just try not to concede and then try and nick a game 1-0? Is it, or it doesn't look like you kind of put teams to the sword? Certainly not this season, anyway.
Yeah, I feel like North End's strategy is try to start fast and trying to nick a goal early, and you obviously put ourselves on the front foot because naturally we don't really have that much possession. We kind of want teams to kind of come out and play against us and. So be it, try and nick the ball high up if we're, 1-0 up and potentially go grab another. Like you see with the Southampton game where we did end up winning 2-0, we went out nice and early, we got a goal in the first half, made them come out and play and then hit them on the counter-attack to make it 2-0. And that's the natural North End performance, especially away from home. That's where we'll try and set up. We've got, in my view, one of the best shot stoppers in the league in Daniel Everson. Huge upgrade on Freddie Woodman. I think we probably would have been, here and amongst the relegation zone if we didn't have Daniel Everson compared to Freddie Woodman. So, North End tried to set up just to start quickly, try and nick a goal, and just sit back and just try to entice the pressure and hopefully hit on the counter.
Yeah, well, that's not good reading for us because we don't play very well with the ball at all. To be fair, it's been been a theme this season. I think not just for Preston, but just looking at teams that do have the ball, they don't really do a great deal with it. It's not a very good league this time around.
No.
In terms of players to watch, then, Ole, I mean, there's one that we definitely won't be seeing. You've already mentioned his name already, Militin Osmajic. I mean, is it a coincidence that since he got banned for 9 games? You haven't won a game, or I mean, granted, it's only 3 of them, or is it, is that just, like I said, just a coincidence? How much do you miss him? Because he got 13 goals last season. He's already got 4 for you already, and you obviously don't score many either.
Yeah, realistically, he's our main goal scorer. He's the one who gets the goals, and statistically wise, he's actually one of the most clinical strikers in the league compared to the amount of chances we actually create for him. So he's a miss, and it's through reasons of his own fault. Over the past 2 seasons, he's going to miss 17 games for things that is in his control and he can resolve. So, I do, however, think it's a slight coincidence. I think the matter of fact is we've also had an injury to Daniel Jefferson who returned Tuesday night against Watford and scored. Jefferson's really done well, actually. He seems to be a striker in form, and to be fair, if you probably had the option of either a fit Jefferson or a fit Militin Osmajic who could play, you probably choose Daniel Jefferson at the moment. So, I'd say it's a bit of a coincidence, but obviously your main goal scorer who's scored the most goals this season and then scored the most goals last season, and I think even the season before being out, it's not great reading. So, Daniel Jefferson being back, I would have said you'd start him over Militan, but going into the other players to watch, I've mentioned Harrison Armstrong.
Yeah, another one I was going to mention is your highest rated player according to Who Scored, and a player that we know quite well as well. It's Jordan Storey. I think that's fair to say, given his performances this season so far. You're rubbing your eyes. I think you can probably tell me that that's not quite the case from the eye test that you give.
Don't get me wrong. He's done well, and ever since we brought in Odell Afire to play right centre back, he's pushed on and he's done really well. I I just can't see how you progress as a football club with Jordan Storey at right centre half. That's just my thoughts. He's got a bit of a foot like a spade. So, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people that like Storey. I just feel like he's just a bit of a liability. He's one of those where you watch him and you think, what is he doing here? But somehow gets away with it. If that's anything to me. Like, I'd say he's a bit like Bambo Diaby. Yeah. You've watched, obviously, Bambo Diaby and you've watched Jordan Storey. So he's one of those where you're like, is he meaning to do what he's meaning to do? Or, is he just pure luck? Like, he'll miskick a ball and it'll just somehow end up, where you expect it. I'd say on the other flank as well, Andrew Hughes has been one of our better players this season. To be fair, I gave him quite a lot of flack. But he's been superb. Ben Whiteman's been good as well. Obviously Armstrong, as I've mentioned. But then you've got players like Lewis Dobbin, especially. Alfie Devine's probably gone a bit off the boil recently, but Lewis Dobbin, let's say he creates 5 chances per game, sticks 4 into row Z, but the one that he does do, could either be a reverse ball to Daniel Jefferson or he could bend one in the top corner. He's one of those players where you're either going to be absolutely naff for 85 minutes and then you're going to do a moment of brilliance. So, yeah, there's a couple to watch. I just don't think Jordan Storey's probably one of them.
I think sometimes when you look at the stats, it's kind of, I'm just been flicking through as you've been talking. It's quite well up there on interceptions. He wins quite a lot of headers. I think if you're a bit of a stats merchant, you get quite, again, these aren't people giving the numbers. These are just algorithms that are throwing these out there. I'm guessing that's what gives him a few good points, and he's got a goal, and I think he's also got an assist as well. So that they'll bump his numbers up quite easily.
His assist probably came off the back of his head or something.
Well, look, they all count. They all count. If he gets a bonus for an assist, I'm sure he'll be knocking and trying to claim it. Two again that we know even better than Jordan Storey, Michael Smith and Paul Valentin. I don't think Paul's been utilised at all, really. He's played a few minutes. Looks like Michael Smith, bit of a super sub maybe. What's your thoughts on both of those?
We all love Paul. we all love Paul. He started the season really well, actually. He was superb. I actually, to be fair, he's another one where we played against Liverpool in pre-season, and that young lad. Was it Rio Nguma?
Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he tore him to shreds. I was like, oh, what we signed here? Who's this lad? Looks like the Spanish Joe Rafferty, who was naff for North End. He's been brilliant, to be fair. Every time he's played, he's direct. But as I say, Heckingbottom, he gets the best out of his players. He knows how to utilise Valentin to be able to get up and down, get to the bar and get these crosses in, but also linking up with, players like Devine and stuff. But he's been injured, and he came back against Watford, had a few minutes, and he did well off the bench. So I think he probably might be a shoe-in to start Valentin. Smith, I would have liked to say has been used as a super sub, but through injuries we've had to, play him, and he's done okay. He's not a 90 minutes footballer at all. He really does struggle. And North End naturally only know how to play one way when it comes to strikers. And that's, you're so used to playing with Osmites, you're so used to playing with Jefferson, playing the ball in behind and getting the striker to chase it. When you got Michael Smith up top and you play the ball over him and get him to chase it, it looks like he's running in treacle.
So, he's not the quickest lad, is he, really?
No, he's not. But so to speak, you've got, if you play to his strengths, he's clearly going to do well. He's a perfect player to bring off the bench when you're 1-0 up, and you play to his strengths by hitting it up to him getting it to hold it down, and spreading it out wide. So yeah, that's just me telling North End how to utilise Michael Smith more. But he has chipped in with a few goals. Obviously, the goal against Millwall, that was a good one. But Then he missed a sitter. I can't remember who it was. It might have been against Sheffield United.
I think that was to put the game to bed, weren't it? That one. That was.
He's missed from like 4 yards out. I'm
yeah.
But yeah, I would say Paul Valentin's probably gone down better than Michael Smith, so to speak, at the moment. But I think Michael Smith's probably been thrown in the deep end a bit with injuries.
There we go. I think they'll both get a decent reception if we see them at the weekend. Although they both jumped ship. But anyway, how I don't want to score prediction just yet. But how do you see the game panning out on Saturday? Obviously, you want to get back to winning ways after having 3 games without a win. We are in absolutely dire form. 11 games without a win for us. We've only won 1 game all season. I think we've scored 3 goals at home. That's it. How do you see this one panning out? Are you just going to come in and throw the kitchen sink at us, or what are you going to do?
I don't see it panning out like that. Potentially, as I say, for the first 20 minutes, try and throw the kitchen sink in it, but I think it'll settle down. I know Wednesday haven't been great for them as recently. It's like North End into last season. We've just been naff. I think it'll be a close game. I'm not as optimistic as I'm guessing Chef Wednesday fans would think Preston fans would be. Hillsborough, no matter what squad you have, is always a tough place to go for North End. Still have horrible memories of Addy New, bending it in for 30 yards out. I've got images of, Beckford and Owen Doyle scrapping at half time. I've got Ben Pearson, almost breaking someone's leg. It's like, everything goes wrong at Hillsborough for North End. So it's just one of those where, it's 90 minutes of football and something's always bound to go wrong for North End. I don't know why. It might be, just a curse of Hillsborough. I expect us to probably throw the kitchen sink at it for the first 20, 30 minutes. If we're able to, get a goal, I'm guessing that's the main plan, try and nick a goal early, but so is every plan in football history.
Yeah, we are really poor in the first 10 or 15 minutes. I think we've conceded nine goals already this season inside the first 10 or 15.
Right.
And we're also really susceptible after the break as well. Like in the first 5 minutes after we come out from half time, I don't know if they're half asleep or what, but we do tend to struggle at those moments. Thankfully, we didn't concede a goal during those moments yesterday, but we still ended up losing 1-0. It was better, but still lost. Go on then, Ole. Before I let you go, what's the score going to be Saturday come 5 o'clock?
I'm the most pessimistic Preston fan in the world, but I will say 2-0 Preston. 2-0
Preston. There we go. Ole, been a pleasure having you on. Where can people listen to Preston if, on the off chance we beat you this weekend? Where can we just watch your head fall off this weekend?
I'm sure that'll happen if we end up getting. No, it might not. Barry Bannon's going to score from 40 yards. So it's the Butterpie Pod on X or Twitter, and obviously on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all good reputable streaming sites. Fingers crossed you probably don't have to hear my voice again until the next half of this season. But if you do end up winning, then come and pop along and hear us out.
I'm sure we will, and obviously we've got our annual Christmas/New Year fixture at Deepdale, which seems to be the same for the past 3 seasons or whatever. It's New Year's Day when we come to your place. So Ole, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for jumping on and telling us all about Preston, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Cheers for having me on, James.
Cheers, mate.